Hello, greetings. This is Dan at Making Permaculture Stronger, and I'm trying to get into the rhythm of a weekly, at least a weekly blog. I usually release them on Saturday mornings in Melbourne time, Australia. What's going on at the moment, some of which you'll hear about soon. So I didn't have a chance to write anything for this week. And I thought, what the heck, I'll try a video blog, because I did want to keep any of you that are interested, and I know there's at least 2 or 3 of you. There's a couple of you out there going on the emails I'm getting and the odd comment that appears on the website, etc. Just to let you know what's going on from my end and what's kind of happening around the place in association with or as part of. Wow, cockatoos. Excuse me, cockatoos. Thank you. In association or underneath that name in different places, mostly involving stuff that's happening in Australia and New Zealand at the current time. Well, I guess I'll just share my train of thought. I'm loving the podcasts. That last one with Yasha Raw, not to mention the preceding ones with Robin Francis, Hannah Maloney, Dave, Jackie, right back to Ben Falk and others. Really loving those. My next podcast, I'm teeing up with Joel Glansberg, who I don't know if you know of Joel's work, but really looking forward to that. He's part of the Regenesis group, got a really deep, profound set of understandings and practices around design process that are very relevant to where the Making Permaculture Stronger conversation is at the moment. Those birds. Whew. I live in Castlemaine outside Melbourne. It's a brittle place, and Alan Savory's sense of the word brittle is an environmental descriptor. Low atmospheric humidity a lot of the time, very dry, particularly in summer. Which meaning that the native vegetation at least is dark, as a browny green a lot of the time, but the colour's all in the birds, and they also make a heck of a racket. Anyway, I don't want to get too distracted by these noisy birds. The podcasts are great. Joel Glansberg's coming up. I'm looking forward to future ones and really loving how that's feeling to me like it's feeding into the conversation and this fresh ideas from all these people, some of which have been exploring design process innovations and fresh influences and whatnot for many decades. What else is happening is this is a headline, is that I've been considering the possibility of writing a book about design process, which is a bit intimidating, right? A whole book for a couple of years probably now. It's been on my mind as a possibility. And recently, I'm not sure if it was my idea or a friend, Lynette, a local friend who's interested in Making Permaculture Stronger. But anyway, the upshot was that we're partnering to finish off the book. It turns out that I've already written, which is quite a realization. In that what Lynette did is she put together the posts. I chose the posts that were kind of part of the introducing the project in the first 2 inquiries, threw them together into a manuscript, which is now in the process of being edited into a coherent whole. And it was like 380 pages, almost 80,000 words. And so, yeah, the title might be something like Making Permaculture Stronger, the first 2 inquiries or something like that. But it feels like in a couple of months that will be available as a downloadable PDF, and it'll be great to get feedback from people and so on, and we'll see where it goes from there. So I'm super excited about that, and that's something that people have asked for over time on a few occasions. It's a pain in the ass to sift through and all the blogs and all that. Click from post to post, need to be online, etc. So I'm looking forward to bringing it all together, and of course it'll be edited for continuity, and some of the stuff that the realizations and discoveries that happen later will feed back into the earlier material to make it hang together more beautifully as a whole. So that's one thing that's going on. Another huge thing from where I stand is that in a couple of days, David Holmgren and I are running the second 4-day advanced permaculture design process workshop which we started April last year. That's happening again, and it's huge for me to have an excuse or we'll just have a reason to hang out with Dave for that period in the lead up and the course itself, to really hook into these ideas together. And he's been really busy with his new book, Retro Suburbia, which was great that book drew on some of the Making Permaculture Stronger's first inquiry, or the first inquiry that I conducted on the blog. But just in the last few days, like sitting down with Dave and taking him through the second inquiry, and then how in the very near future I'm going to be bringing together the outcomes or things that were discovered in the course of the two inquiries into one coherent picture that I'm really excited about and feel like can be communicated as a really palatable, accessible framework for supporting permaculture as a whole in terms of becoming more self-aware about design process, and hopefully even moving the center of gravity of permaculture design process away from, in the direction of life and wholeness, and supporting more of these things. That's going on. Wow, what else? So in New Zealand, there's a series of what they call hui, which are gatherings under the Making Permaculture Stronger name. I think they recently had, I think it might have been either the third or the fourth, where they're nimble, autonomous. I'm not really involved at all. And I was involved in kind of kicking them off, and the first one we had was on the topic of design process, but since then there's been ones on practicing permaculture professionally. The most recent one was on permaculture, I think in a social context, what some people call social permaculture. And so, yeah, exciting, that's going strong. And in, I think it's June, in a couple of months, there will be a national gathering of permaculturists in New Zealand, where Dave Hursthouse, who I know as Phoenix, my friend Phoenix, who's very much a part of the Making Permaculture Stronger conversation, he'll be presenting, I think the title of his talk something like Making Permaculture Stronger from New Zealand to India and back again, something like that. And he recently gave a talk on the topic of making permaculture stronger at the International Permaculture Convergence in India, which apparently was well received to the extent that, along with a few other talks that were considered important, was asked to be repeated, and apparently generated a lot of interest and discussion and so on. I'm still waiting on a full report, which Phoenix has promised, and I think there's some, we've shared some low quality video, but I think there's some high quality video in the pipeline too. So that's super exciting. I'll be international convergence, the New Zealand convergence, this month. It's April, right? Yeah, it's already April. Happy April 1st. There'll be an Australian national convergence in Canberra, in Australia's capital city, and I'll be showing up to that, and I'll be giving a couple of talks or presentations, and one of them will be on the topic of making permaculture stronger. So that's all really exciting, and I'm really thrilled that, well, what for me was just something I felt like I needed to do and wanted to get off my chest, how it's continuing to serve me, and I'm benefiting so much, and I've learned so much from the conversations and the inquiries and whatnot that have come out of this. But it's a deep kind of thrill. It's really exciting to find that over time there's a real, I don't know if you call it a snowballing effect, but there's a growth of interest, and I'm getting a lot of emails from a lot of, I'm not like talking hundreds of emails each week or something, but like every week or every couple of weeks an email comes in. Often people, so I'll probably say at least weekly. They all have a similar format in the sense that there's always gratitude there. Hey, thanks, this is a conversation I've been hungry for. Sometimes it's stuff like, I've been waiting for this conversation for 20 years, since I got into permaculture or whatever it is. And then, which is lovely, but what's even more lovely is that it's not just thank you. It's hey, have you thought about this, or what about this direction? Last week an email came through from someone pointing me to some brilliant modern or recent articles drawing on the lineage of Wolfgang Goethe, the German famous poet, author, scientists, etc., and his naturalistic approach to science which was an alternative to the Newtonian approach, which has of course become dominant. Anyway, so that's all going on. What else can I share with you? I think I'll leave it there. But yeah, in terms of the next little bit, I'm going to be kind of bringing the second inquiry, which has been looking at the way that designing and implementing are related to each other inside design process. I'll be bringing that to a close, and then recapping and reviewing the outcomes of inquiry 1, which was looking at moving from a space of seeing design as a process of assembling elements into whole systems, moving beyond that into a space, this is my journey of realizing, hey, you can flip that on its head and see design process as a process of partitioning or dividing up one whole space into a more nuanced configuration of parts. But then again, moving beyond that and realizing that's an either or. It's a false dichotomy. It's not one or the other, of course it's both. So moving beyond both to a space where healthy design process is about transforming or differentiating a whole system, where the whole and the parts are changing in this reciprocal dance. And within that, you are both partitioning and you are you're also integrating in new things. So in a sense, you're assembling as well. So bringing that together with the findings of Inquiry 2, which is honed in on this distinction between a fabricating approach or a master planning approach, where you do all your thinking and drawing up front and then implement it, through a hybrid approach where you do a concept design, but you don't get too carried away, and then you enter it more of an iterative, generative process where the details come out in the wash and you just do stuff and learn from what happened and let that inform the next round of thinking and doing and so on. And then beyond that distinction into what Christopher Alexander called a full-blown generating process, where thinking and doing are fully intertwined kind of from the beginning. We're not talking about winging it here. It's not random, but it's a process which arguably has by far the most potential to create the systems permaculture aspires to, which are systems that are bursting with life and that are beautifully adapted to their contexts, and so on and so forth. So I think I'll leave it there. I wish you, for those of you that get caught up in this whole Easter thing, I wish you a happy Easter. For the rest of you, I hope you have a lovely weekend. And I guess that's it for this week. I'll possibly next week I did have the idea that I might, because I'll be with Mr. David Holmgren running the 4-day course up till Friday. If we get a chance, we'll grab a little bit of footage and maybe share some reflections on how the course went or how it's going or whatever. And quite possibly that'll be the post a week from now. And then after that, I'll plan to get back into the rhythm of writing up and seeing through these 2 inquiries, not only to see them through for the blog, but also because they will be the closing chapters of the book in preparation. All right. Thank you. Goodbye. All the best. And if you watched all this, then good on you. Thanks for staying with me. Bye-bye.